it comes to the risks we all face in our lives, few businesses are as attuned as insurance companies. And for the extreme weather events and catastrophes that this summer seem to be daily occurrences, insurance is a central piece to keep our lives and economies stable. But from drought and wildfires in Europe to terrible floods in the U.S., the bad news keeps on coming. Charles Brindamore is the CEO of Intact Financial. Great to have you with us, Charles.
Glad to be here, Amanda.
So this really is, as much as people may hate that insurance is a cost that we all have to pay, it's a stabilizing force in the world. It keeps us right from having devastating losses when things happen. You just posted your results, so I'll hasten to say you're obviously not suffering right now, your business, but as you look at all these events and they're once-in-a-thousand-year storms, what does the future hold when you think about the cost of insuring and the great unknowns that we all face?
Well, look, Amanda, I think it's important to understand that natural disasters have increased by a factor of close to 5 in the past 30 years. The world is still warming, and I think that will continue to warm until we stabilize warming by getting to net zero. And I think that the trend of increase in natural disasters is going to continue for some time to come. And as a result, both from a society and an individual point of view, we need to be ready for this changing world.
It has been one, Charles, and I know that you and other companies have been hit hard in recent years when we've seen devastating floods in Alberta, for instance. Those kinds of events are terrible for the people involved, but costly to the industry as well. As they increase, what happens to the rates that we'll pay? Presumably all of us will pay more for all types of insurance because the cost of those events will only go up.
Indeed, Amanda, but I don't think you tackle an issue like climate change and natural disasters only by price. I think people increasingly recognize the need to insure themselves. So we've had over the past decade, this is not new for us. We've been on the front lines for over a decade. As a result, we've changed our product. We've changed the data we collect. We changed how we help Canadians get back on track. We've changed our supply chain. We're actually building a home restoration business, a big home restoration business at the moment, because there's great demand on these services. That's what we're doing. And obviously the cost is going up because the risk is going up meaningfully, but it's not just about pricing. I think the issue is not just for insurers, it's very much for society, because for every dollar insured, Amanda, there's $3 to $4 that is uninsured, whether it's public infrastructure, whether it is under insurance, or just the fact that people might not be insured or insurable. And therefore, it's an all of society problem. Individuals, government, and businesses need to work together on that.
We've got 30 seconds for what is a big question, Charles, but you mentioned the uninsured component. A lot of public infrastructure is uninsured. Governments are exposed. Do you think that we understand that as taxpayers, the extent to which the exposure we face is really collective and pretty big?
I think more and more Canadians understand that this is indeed a societal issue. And I think I'm encouraged by the fact that the government certainly gets that. Flood, big risk, forest fire, number 2. And I think integrating that in our thought process in terms of where we build, how we build, and how we retrofit infrastructure and leverage natural asset is the way to go.
Charles, it is so good to have you with us. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Charles Brindamore is the CEO of Intact Financial. Time for the takeaway and how you'll know it when you see it. There's been some debate in certain circles about whether the U.S. is in recession or not. That matters hugely to Canada since that economy is very much the wind in our economic sails. If you're lucky, you don't sit around and ponder the definition of recession. And in the end, the label that's slapped on our economic performance isn't really the one that most of us should care about. Recessions can vary enormously in size, in length, and even in style. So in the absence of a ruling on this one, let's go with the famous quote about obscenity from a U.S. Supreme Court judge. It can be hard to describe, but you know it when you see it. So, what makes a recession difficult? For most of us, our incomes or job security is the key question. If either is threatened by a recession or even a slowdown in growth, you are already paying attention. And speaking of incomes, it doesn't really matter to us individually if the economy is growing but our own wealth is shrinking. And with few exceptions, that has been the case for the past few months. Higher prices bite into our cash flow, and even where they have increased, incomes have not kept pace. Throw in our paper losses in savings and stocks and the value of our homes, and it's no surprise many Canadians feel poor. But here's where common sense is priceless. If your own situation is manageable, or you can take steps to make it so, that's where your attention should be. Here, an old problem does rear its head, and that's our collective debt levels. Already high before COVID, our household debt is still one of the biggest concerns. Did we take advantage of cost savings from lockdown to pay down debt? Well, some did, but most did not. In fact, more real estate seemed to be the idea that most of us had. Now we may face a higher bill for that debt. But even so, these are extremely specific to each of us. My takeaway? Let economists quibble about terms. For my money, when a recession arrives, you'll know it when you see it. That's Taking Stock for this week. I'm Amanda Lang. Thanks for being with us.